Och inte i hela trakten fanns det någon som dansade högt och säker att hålla takten. Nu var du med bästa poäng på din pall och din stäva. Du var piga och jag var dräng och jämt fick vi nog sväva. Ja, det var ju då när jag dig vann och vi började sammanvandra. Och nu är jag ej så världen.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Bengtsson. I'm all the way from Sweden. For 2 years ago, I was here sponsored by the American Scandinavian Foundation to run classes all over America in the old traditional way to do this woodcraft. And this is my really love, the old traditional way. And for that reason, I also want to share it with somebody. And for that reason, I'm doing this film. Home in Sweden, I am an industrial art teacher since about 25 years. And I have been working with wood in my whole life, which is about 40 years now. It is possible I will do some more films in other subjects I know quite good. And it's knife making and ship carving. But this film will be about making a love spoons. Okay, in the old days it was common for a young man to make wooden spoons, a love spoons. It was also called känningar, which is translated to English something like love test. And if the girl accepted the spoon, the man was in favor. But there was also a story about this. The mother said, don't trust the man who gives away too many spoons. So let's have a look at the tools he used for making this love spoons. Actually, all these tools is historical tools, but they are under production. For example, if we start with the axes, this axe is a really historical axe. They found this one in, not this one, but one in a Viking grave, and it had been copied of a really good blacksmith in Sweden. This is not mass-produced stuff. The other two axes I have here for spoon carving is the little one here and a bigger one. They are both made of a company who is called Gränsfors in Sweden, and each one of them is handmade. But it's not mass-produced, but they are able to buy. When you come to the knives, it's also Swedish steel, which is well known all over the world. It's laminated steel, and it's called a Sloyd knife. It's a very good quality, and you can have this for a lifetime if you really take care of it. I also have some other knives here with other handles, but it's still the same steel, the frost steel. But I have made my own handle because I like another shape of the handle. Here's another one, a small one. And actually you don't need bigger knives than this. That's a perfect knife to carve project like the love spoons. Another thing you need to have is something to scoop out the bowl in. And for that, it's a bented knife. In Sweden, we just call them spoon knives. And they comes up for right-handed or left-handed. So, but this tool is quite difficult to get. But some good wood stores have them. If you don't can find these tools for yourself, it's also possible to use a gouge like this. And this gouge is the best one in the market. It's produced in Switzerland, and the company is named P-File. And you also need something to finish the spoon with, and this is a sandpaper, and this is easy to find. And the old traditional way to finish the spoon, it was linseed oil, boiled linseed oil or raw linseed oil. But I think it's better to go for the boiled linseed oil. I will show you later on in the program. To grind up all my tools, I have chosen this grinding machine. It's a Whetstone Grinder. It's named Tormek. It's #1 in America, in Sweden, and maybe everywhere. It had been chosen as #1 in Wood magazine. It's a complete machine. It takes all kind of tools. But the first thing you have to think about when you're working with machines, you should wear safety glass. It's a good thing to have. I don't need it because I have my own glasses. Otherwise, use glasses. This machine comes up with different tools like this to grip the different tools. The stone have 2 grits on this side. On this side you have the honing wheel, a leather wheel. You have also a small honing wheel, a leather wheel. But let's see on this side the jigs here. This is a jig for sharpening knives. And you can adjust this up and get just the right angle of it you want, and you turn it over and then you grind it on both sides. Let's take another jig. For example, for axes, that's a little small jig, and you can just adjust this up and down and get the angle on your tools you want. And you turn it the other way there too. There's many of these jigs. Another jigs is this jigs for chisels. It can be difficult to grind chisels really good, but this one takes small, really finger small chisels. So it's just to adjust this up and down, and you can grind the chisels, the gouges, whatever you want. And when you are finished with the grinding on this side, you go over for the honing, and you do this by hand together with a little of this compound. And if it's gouges like this, it's often very difficult to come inside here. But with Tormek, it's no problem. You see this leather wheel? It's going so good here. So this machine actually is what you need. It's complete machine for the grinding any kind of carving tools. Okay, the wood I always use is green wood. Why? Because it's softer to carve in. And the most common wood in Scandinavia have been birch to carve spoons in. But you can also use like cherry, maple, or any hard, close-grained wood. Even fruit tree is just perfect, but not bananas. So this piece, for example, is just cotton. It's new. And this piece is not exactly hardwood, it's aspen. But I have chosen this because it's a good piece to practice in. It's a little softer, but to practice is really fantastic good wood. So let's start to chop in this aspen and see how it goes. Let's start have fun. But before we do that, I will show you something who is really good to have, and it's this apron. I use a leather one, and it's good because it's protect your legs and all over. So if it's possible, use something like this. Okay, let's start. I grabbed a big axe at the beginning, and what I'm doing from the beginning, I'm making this in quarters like this. So this should actually, in this piece, it can be 4 spoons. So what I'm doing, I'm putting the axe just exactly in the center, and then I cut it in quarters, and then I use the other piece for this. So there is the piece for the spoon. And what I'm doing now is to get rid of the bark like this. It's easy when the wood is green. It's like peeling potatoes, this. From the beginning, count your fingers. You should have 10 now, and you should have 10 when the project is over. So be safety, be careful. The axes have to be really, really sharp, and I will show you during my time here how to do this really safe. You need to know where you have your hands. For example, don't go out here with your hand. You can't control the axe. The hand have to be close to the head of the axe. And get away with the fingers, like this. So you don't grab it down here. Have it up here. And you start like this to doing the spoons. You're doing a little V here. And the V is where the bowl and the handle is meeting. And I'm doing this all the way out to the edge here. All the way out there. And why did I do this V here? I will show you on a really finished one. It's because all spoons should have an angle between the bowl and the handle. Why? Yeah, otherwise you lose your food. When you take it up in the pot, the food, or you serve it, if it's a straight spoon, it can fill out. So all handmade spoons should have an angle. That is really good. So the angle will be from this point out here into here, and then the handle will be up here. So what I'm doing now is to straighten up the bowl part. You don't need big muscles for this. You can nearly already now see the design of the spoon who is coming up here. Now I'm straightening this up, the handle. And I start from half of this something and going all the way down here, to the point here. So this line you have here is the line between the bowl and the handle. For your safety, turn the piece of wood like this and go for the other way. you see you have your fingers up here, it's safety. Actually, it would be quite straight first, 2/3 of the length, and just the end of it should go over. But that's my design. You can have your own design. There's not one way on this. So when you are satisfied on this side here, you see, yeah, I think I'm satisfied there. Then you turn it over and do it on the other way, the opposite, the underside of the spoon. Then I start to take out this piece here, so you get the bowl, the round bowl here. And I look what the middle of the bowl should be, and I start there. Now I'm going from this point here up all the way to the handle, so I had the handle very thin here. Then I turn this one again and grab it like this. And I do a couple of these chops like this, because the wood easier go away then. Then I start on the top here, and you see the pieces are loosened during the way down here. And you have to do this several times. And you look at the thickness here. You should save something like 1/4 to 1/2 inch. It depends how big the spoons is. You have to save something for the knife work too. But it's easier to do this with the axe than it's with a knife. So do it with the axe as much as you can. So when you are finished with the both sides of this axe work, you have to do some pattern here. You can go for your own eyes and do it just on free hand. But it's also possible to do this to make your own pattern first. And if you want to do an even spoon, I mean even on both sides here, you need a center line. And then you mark out this center line like this, and take some, I don't know what this is called in English, but it's good, it works. So we make up a center line like this. And you have your center line in this pattern. It's also possible, you know, to go by free hand to do this on both sides and get the design you want. But there's one point here. Don't go too narrow here. Start with something like 1/2 inch here from the beginning. It can be closer later on, but I mean on the pattern you're doing. So then you put the center line on both ends here, and then you just mark up this bone. What I'm doing next here is to come into the wood here. I'm doing 2 V's on each side like this. I will chop this away before I go for the axe work around here. So I grabbed the little goodies here, the Gränsfors axe again, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They are all there. And it should be that in the end too. But be safety, be careful. Grab the axe like this. And then we are starting to doing this V. And it's good if you have the bowl outside the chopping block, because you maybe can hurt this edge here. So have the axe or the bowl outside the chopping block and do this V. Okay, something like this. you can always go further later on. So I stop with that. Now I can start to chop like this here. But you should know, if you hit this point here, there with the axe, then it's firewood, because it will be a crack in this bone. So you have to be careful when you chopping here with the axe, so you don't hit this edge here. So I have another solution on that. Then it's better to turn the spoon on this side and grab the axe and try to get rid of little of this wood. Like this. Now you can continue doing the chopping here with the axe, but close your elbow to your body, and it's just the hand who is nicking. And put the axe in a wider angle into the spoon so you don't hit here. And small chops. And you start here and go up and move your finger away and do the other side. And then you have to turn time to time and look at this so you get the right position there, and go further up. And when you come too close to your finger, turn the spoon like this. Even now you can see it's a little too thick there. Then I get this away with the axe again. You have to save something for the knife work, but not too much. Maybe it's too thick, the spoon here. Okay, when the handle is finished like this, you go for the bowl. And it's just the same way, you know. Grab the axe safety and start to get this around like this. And this way. Something like this. And there's one way to do small chopping, eh? Can be good. There is always another way to do everything. You can use an ordinary copy saw to saw this out, like this. You can have a look if you want to take away a little of this sides here, like this, so you don't have that much work. Because actually the spoon should go quite straight here. It should be like this and not too deep. You don't need to do deep bowls. So you can carve away a little here with the axe too, on both sides. Okay, this is nearly done now, I mean with the axe work. So we are going for the knife work now. Okay, let's grab the knife. The small goodies here, the Swedish steel. And take the spoon like this in your hand and hold the knife like this so it feels comfortable. And I will show you a couple of grip here who is very safety, because the knife has to be, it had to be really sharp, really sharp. Otherwise it doesn't work. Then it's really dangerous. So grab the knife, don't be afraid of the knife. If you know the right way to do this, then it's safety. Here's one way. What we're doing now first is to trim this edge around so you get the nice edge all the way around. And here's one grip. I have the thumb on this side here. You see? There's no chance to cut yourself. And go as far as you can on this side here. And then you go like this. And you should have the object, your spoon, close to your body here. Then you control it, because you can't carve out here. Then you can't control it. You should have it here. Can you see how I push this with the thumb of the other hand? I help myself with the thumb here. And then I'm going, when I'm finished here, I'm going this side. I have the thumb here. It's impossible to cut myself here. And I have the object near, close to my body. So I go as far as possible here. And then I go for the thumb again here. And I grab the knife with the thumb on this side here. And then I move up to the handle. I push with the thumb and I slide with knife. You don't push just straight, so you have to slide with knife. Then it cuts easier. And all the way up, and when you are coming close here so you can't hold it, yeah, then you have to turn. This is a safety way to cut. Okay, so when you are satisfied with the rim around here, then it's another tool we shall use. And this is the spoon carving knife, as we call it in Sweden. That's Goody one, who is made of maybe the best blacksmith we have. And I have both left-handed and right-handed. You can also use this one. I will, if you don't get this one, I will show you how to use the ordinary gouge, the profile gouge. Now it's very good to have this amper. Grab the chisel or the gouge like this. You shouldn't have much outside here. Then you slide like this. Because you don't hold the chisel long up here, then it's dangerous. Then you can cut yourself, eh? So have it really, and you see it's not my whole arm, it's just the hand here who is working. It's just the hand, and you go around from both ways like this. You can also do this in a bench. It's possible to fasten the spoon in a bench like this and work. It's possible to do this. And you turn it and you do it from both sides. It's possible to do that on the bench. But if you are out in the woods, then it's better to work like this with it. Or my best friend, the crooked knife. you grab the spoon like this, and you always going cross grain when you cut with this. Always cross grain. And this is a pleasure to work with this tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's really good. You see, it's like peeling potato. How fast it goes. It's nothing to carve out with this. And I work with just the fingers here, not the whole arm. I can have it up here. And actually I work with both left-handed spoon carving knife and right-handed. It's nearly done. Look so it gets even, I mean, so you don't have big bumps in it. It's not nice, so you get it really smooth inside. Now you can start to trim up this edge here if you want. And you do this with a smaller knife, or you can use the ordinary Sloyd knife. It's possible too. And I do this with this grip I showed you before, and I go to the half of the spoon here. Then I go from the center there down to the hill there. Here I'm doing like this. I'm shaving like a compass is the knife, and I use the grip I showed you before here with the thumb all to the center there, so it meets, because you can't go further than this. Then it's cross grain. Now you have a nice edge here, and if you don't have, you go back for the with a spoon knife and trim this up a little. It's easier to see when you have clean it up with a knife. Okay, something like this. When you are satisfied with the bowl, don't let them be too deep, and don't go directly. It should be a smooth hollow like this. Then you take the spoon and the ordinary knife again and go back to this edge. You should leave something like 3 millimeters, what is about 1/8 of an inch all around here. And you go all the way around to carve this up nice. It's, if you see, nearly all my spoons comes up with little point here. What is this for? It's for all the goodies in the pot you can't get up in the corners. So this is good to save a little edge like this on there. But it's a question of design, so you don't need to do that. Okay, when you're done with this, you can go narrow here. You don't need to have that wide spoon here, because it should fit your finger better here. So this way you can have the spoon really thin. You can save something like all the way down to 1/4 of an inch. But this way you should have thicker, otherwise it will be weak. So you have to save this way, but this way you can have a little thinner. Now it's a decision if you want to go up on the handle and make the handle nice, or you want to make the bowl finish. You can go either way. I start with a bowl here on the bottom side. And the secret with this, so it doesn't shall crack, because it's raw. It's a wet green wood, and when this dries, it cracks if it's not thin. It had to be thin enough. And I'm talking about the thickness about 1/8 of an inch, not thicker than that, even thinner. If you have hard wood, you can even look at the light. And if you see little of the light through the spoon, if you are working with hard wood like cherry, then it's good. Then it's enough. So what I'm starting with here now, it's up in the end of the spoon, and I carve the thickness. I'm carving all the way over the hill here, and I feel the thickness all the time. And I go backwards, and I feel the thickness. Here is very too thick. So I took a really big piece there, and I feel the thickness with my fingers all the time. You can also grab and cross the grain here when you come up to the hill here, before you turn it like this. You help your hand like this. It works just perfect to do this. And feel the thickness here. When you are done here, so you have about little under about 1/8 of an inch, then you go for the sides here. And let's start from the front here and go backwards. And you need to have it here, and you see you get very strong here. And to the center of the bowl, and then you have to turn, otherwise it will be, you understand, you will cut it in the middle here, yeah? So it's, then you turn it and put it in your hand and help this hand with the finger and get this away and feel the thickness all the time. Okay, and then we have the other side. You have to follow the grain all the time. You can't go against the nature. You have to follow it. So it's this way here, up from the hill here and down here, and it's downhill here. It's from the center here down to there, and it's this way there. So that's what it is. Okay, when you are finished with the thickness of the bowl, you can plane off this, the handle here, make it nice, and you move your finger backwards like this, and you slide the knife all the way up here as far as you can go and grip the spoon, and then you turn it and do it just the other way. So it's quite simple, this. And you do the same on this side. And I usually go for some special cuts in here because the spoon had to be thin there. So what I'm doing is I'm carving in things like this here. Both ways. Now it fits the finger much better. And you could go much narrow here. Much more narrow. Okay, let's stop here. Actually, the spoon is nearly finished now. Now you can decorate it. I can do a little knob here, up here. And what I'm doing is just doing you remember the V we had from the beginning? I'm doing a V here on each side. So with a knife, yeah, something like this. You can trim it up and do a lot of different things, you know. So actually this spoon is ready for drying. The thickness is, the most important places here in the spoon is in the front here, the front, and the back here. There it had to be thin. It's not, if the bowl is a little too thick here, it doesn't matter, you know, but it's the ends. The ends, there is the water going out first. So the ends here and the front. And you can leave this spoon for about, it depends on the humidity, but in Sweden we leave them for inside the house for 2 days. If they are really small, thin, they are dried overnight. Another way to dry it fast, it's the microwave oven. You put it in the oven for about 1.5 to 2 minutes, but don't put full power, half power. Take it out, let it cool off, and you can do that a couple of times, maybe 3, 4, it depends the wood. And then you'll leave it overnight, and then it's ready to carve again, because it will be discolored little, you know, when you have when the spoon is dry. So you have to take up the carving again after. Okay, when the spoons have dried out about a couple of days, I told you before, something like 2, 3 days, or you have gone for the microwave oven. Then you need to carve it little all over again, because when it dries, it may be discolored a little. So you're going back and carve it all the way around, have a nice even edge all around, and even inside you take little with a spoon carving knives and carve it up on the outside and everywhere, so you get it really smooth and nice. Don't leave anything, you know, so it's sticking in your fingers. Well, you can leave all this mark and leave it as it is. It's nice, then you can see it's handmade. But you can also go for sandpaper. You can sand the whole piece if you want, but you can also just sand the handle so it smooths to hold in like this. And sandpaper, it's easy to find, eh? And you start with something like 150 grit. That's enough. And then you sand the whole spoon or just the handle. That was your decision. Like this. And you can also sand it inside, of course. But that's quite a lot of job, you know, to sand all these marks, the carving marks away. So often I leave my spoon with the carving marks inside. So sand it up so it looks really nice and smooth. And when this is done, the spoon is nearly done. It's just the finish on it too. And of course you have to do your initial here, your marks. So you see which one have done this spoon. And the finishing has always been linseed oil. Linseed oil. That's the old-fashioned way. Boil linseed oil. You take that on a cloth like this, and just rub it in, you know. It will take a lot of that oil. The whole spoon like this, and let it get as much as the spoon wants, all the way around. And this linseed oil will dry about 2-3 days. And now, for me, it smells really good, but the smell will goes away. And this is not toxic. It's nearly so pure so you can drink it, but okay, you shouldn't drink stuff like this. But it's no poison at all. So after 2-3 days, I take another layer of this linseed oil, and I take a piece of really smooth sandpaper, like 600 grit, together with the oil. You can even take little oil inside a bowl like this, and you sand in the oil, wet all over, and the backside. And then you take a cloth or something, paper is better, to take off the grease of it, you know, and then you let it dry for another 2-3 days, and then the spoon is ready. But then we have another part of this, if you want to do a really nice decoration. You can do some ship carving. You can do ship carving with painting. Another type of coloring and decor carving was you color this ship carving with elder bark. What you're doing is to sand elder bark, and I think you can take any kind of bark, dried bark, and grind it to a powder. You mix that with linseed oil and rub it in. Then you get a different color inside the ship carving. That was an old-fashioned way they did too. So there was ship carving. But there's also another way to do this carving, and it was called coal roasting. There's no translation on that. It's also elder bark, and you do a mark with the knife here, wherever you have drawn up, like small hearts, if it's to your loved one. And then you take this elder bark again, the mixed, and rub it in, and then you can take a smooth sandpaper after. You don't feel this at all. It's gone. With linseed oil and this smooth sandpaper. Then you have a nice other kind of decor. But it's impossible this short time we have, you know, to show how this works. So it had to be in another film. Okay, now we are finished with the spoons. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very, very good luck to making these love spoons. And there will coming up more of these tapes on the Scandinavian wood carving. So until then, hej då och tack så mycket för mig.
Hela takten, fanns det någon som dansade högt så tänker att hålla takten. Inte var med bästa poäng, på din pall och din stäva. Du var piga och jag var dräng, och igen för krig nog att sväva. Ja, det var ju då när jag dig vann, och vi började sammanvandra. Och nu är jag ej så värdelös grann, du är ju mest andra. För livet hänger allt på som nu satt, men om man blott är trägen